Hi, very good morning. I'm Dr. Janak Patel. I'm a general physician. I'm not an endocrinologist. Today we'll be talking about one of the very useful topic in thyroid disorders, that is thyroid function test. How you do it, when you do it, indications, and what are the interpretations. So thyroid function test, for that we'll be talking under what are the different thyroid function tests, indications, interpretations, and differential diagnosis. This already we have discussed in a previous chapter, that is introduction of thyroid gland, that is thyroid gland manufactures in short T3 and T4, and it releases T3 T4 into a blood. T3 only 10% is released from thyroid gland. Rest of the T3 is obtained from 90% is obtained from conversion of T4 to T3, and 99.9% of T4 is bound to thyroglobulin, it is bound to plasma in blood, it is bound to globulin, prealbumin, and albumin. Only 0.01% is free, 0.1% is free, which we call as an active form, and that is converted into T3. Before action of T4, it has to be converted into T3. T3 is also bound to globulin, prealbumin, and albumin. 99.5% of total T3 is bound. So free T3 and T4 is in a very small quantity. So our body requirement of T3 and T4 is very, very small. That is, out of whatever is manufactured by thyroid gland, only 0.5% of T3 is free in blood, and which is the most active form of thyroxine, which will act on a different cells by stimulating messenger RNA and inducing the changes in the cell functions. So it will be acting on almost all structures of body: eye, brain, kidney, skin, uterus, we call gonads, ovary, testis, GI tract, liver, heart, lungs, muscles, etc. Also, it is very useful during pregnancy, so it will be helping mother as well as fetus also. T3 T4 is the most active, out of which T4 has to be converted into T3 before an action, and calcitonin will be acting on bone as well as it will be acting on kidney, GI tract, these three structures, and it will take part in calcium homeostasis. There are a lot of disorders which we already shown you in a previous slides. You can have a hypofunction of thyroid gland, or hyperfunction, or we call euthyroid, normal function. It can be mild, we call overt variety, or we call subclinical, where you may be asymptomatic, or you can have a severe variety, and that severe variety can be hyper or can be hypo. Mild variety can be hypo or hyper. Subclinical can be hypo or hyper. You can present as a goiter, enlargement of the thyroid gland, which can be hyperfunctioning or hypofunctioning, which can be a smooth goiter, cystic goiter, can be a nodular, can be multinodular, solitary nodule, or multinodular. And this goiter can be euthyroid, can be hypothyroid, or can be hyper, any one of those. It can be malignant, it can be benign. And radioactive uptake study wise, it can be hyper uptake, or we call increase uptake, or normal uptake, or decrease uptake. Depending upon that also you can identify. We call as a hot nodule, which has got increased radioactive uptake, cold nodule, which has got decreased radioactive uptake, and normal, which is we call as a normal uptake. There can be inflammation that can be acute, mainly by bacteria or virus. It can be subacute, which is mainly by virus, or it can be chronic, which is very frequently because of other group of disorders. It can be autoimmune, and autoimmune we have got three classical variety: Hashimoto's, Riddle's, and Graves' disease. Etiology wise, you can have a disorder of thyroid gland itself, primary. It can be secondary, either due to pituitary or because of hypothalamus disorder, or because of extra thyroid causes like malignancy, ectopic thyroid glands, ectopic secretion of TSH, etc. can produce a disorders. Tertiary is mainly because of hypothalamus. It can be congenital, it can be acquired. Depending upon the situation of the thyroid gland, it can be normal position, it can be lingual, it can be thyroglossal cyst, it can be inside the tongue, that is intralingular, ectopic, that is particularly retrosternal, or maybe even in a mediastinum, retrosternal, or maybe in a mediastinum, or you can have an ectopic secretion of a TSH from different malignant tissue like bronchogenic carcinoma, teratomas, ovarian teratomas, or testicular teratomas, or very rarely from GI tract tumors also. It can be transient or it can be persistent. Or you can have a decreased conversion of T4 into T3 leading to euthyroid sick syndrome, or it is also called as a sick euthyroid syndrome, acute illness thyroid disorders. And you can have an iatrogenic where because of medications or because of treatment you end up with hypo or hyper, either because of antithyroid drugs, or because of hormone replacement therapy, or because of peripheral tissue resistance, or because of surgery and radiations. We divide thyroid disorder into congenital and acquired, or we divide into primary, secondary. Now usually tertiary word is not commonly utilized. Usually it is divided into primary and secondary. Depending upon the clinical presentation, clinical or subclinical, or we call overt and mild. Duration wise, permanent and transient. So these are the different divisions. It can be hypo or hyper, or it can be euthyroid. Tertiary word is usually now not commonly utilized. Usually secondary we call as a central causes. Overt is also called frank, and mild, or sometime when you get a very severe variety, in particularly hypo, we call myxedema coma, and in hyper we call thyroid storm. There is another group, autoimmune, Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. Thyroid goiter can be hyper or hypo, or U. Hyper, hypo, or U. It can be diffuse or it can be nodular. It can be solitary nodule or it can be multinodular. And this nodules, diffuse enlargement or that can be hyper, hypo, or euthyroid. Toxic, when it is hyper we call toxic, so it can be toxic solitary nodule, toxic multinodular, or diffuse toxic. And if it is non-toxic, either U or hypo, we call non-toxic multinodular, non-toxic diffuse nodular, etc. words are utilized. So goiter can be hypo, hyper or U, or it can be neoplastic. Hypo can be congenital or can be acquired. Among acquired, autoimmune, particularly Hashimoto's, Riddle's, and in hyper, autoimmune is Graves' disease and other autoimmune disorders. It can be again, Hashimoto's can end up with hyper, but for temporary purpose. Then we call Hashimoto toxicosis. You can have a hypo because of iodine deficiency also, which can end up with a goiter. So you can have an hyper autoimmune Hashimoto's, and you can have an hypothyroid acquired variety, autoimmune variety Hashimoto's. Riddles usually ends up with hypo, not hyper. Graves' disease is usually hyper. You can have an inflammation, acute, subacute, and chronic. As far as neoplastic variety is concerned, it can be benign, it can be malignant. Radioactive uptake wise, radioactive low uptake we usually call as a cold nodule, and high uptake we call as a hot nodule. Hot nodules are usually hyperthyroid and non-malignant, while cold nodules can be hypo, can be U, by and large hypo, and more likely to be malignant. Among thyroiditis, it can be painful, it can be painless. Among painless, Hashimoto's, Riddle's, postpartum, drug-induced and radiation, those common groups. While painful are usually infectious disease, and in this infectious, acute, which are mainly bacterial, or can be chronic, which can be pneumocystic carni, mycobacterium, fungal, mainly in an immunocompromised host. While subacute variety we call usually, which is painful sometimes, and that we call as a Dequerine post-viral thyroiditis. So while approaching to a thyroid disorders and going to a thyroid function test, you must suspect a person what type of disorder he is having by history, physical examination, and systemic examination. It can be thyrotoxicosis, or it can be myxedema, or we call hyperthyroidism, hypothyroidism, and euthyroid. And clinical symptom wise, thyrotoxicosis or myxedema, which you can identify by clinical examination. But by laboratory, you can call hyper or hypothyroid. By a good history, you can decide regarding congenital, acquired, or iatrogenic. Sorry, this spelling is wrong. It should be and should not be there. Yes, on examination you can find out whether there is a thyroclossal cyst, there is an enlarged pyramidal lobe, there is any lingual lobes, or there is a suspected ectopic thyroid gland by doing Plum-Burton test. Goiter can be smooth, multinodular, or solitary nodule. Goiter can be benign, malignant, or can be because of thyroiditis. It can be acute, subacute, chronic. Among autoimmune, Hashimoto's, Riddle, or postpartum thyroiditis. And there are many other varieties of autoimmune varieties. And there are some name given to that. Graves' disease is also called Basedow disease. Toxic multinodular goiter is also called as a Plumber disease or TMG, toxic multinodular goiter. Solitary nodule or single nodule, toxic solitary adenomas is also called as Goiter's disease. Now, when you go to investigations, first investigation is TSH, free T4, T3, or total T3, total T4, and then you go for a ratio, what we call. Among antibody studies, TPO antibody, and among TRA, we call thyroid stimulating hormone receptor antibody, which can be stimulating, which can be blocking, or which can be inhibitory, and thyroglobulin antibody. These are the three common antibodies which are being studied. Here this is called TRAB. So TSH receptor antibodies, which are usually stimulating antibodies or inhibitory antibodies, or we call blocking antibodies. Stimulatory antibody is very common in Graves' disease. If you want to find out a central causes, you will have to do either a TSH stimulation test or TRH stimulation test or inhibition test. TRH stimulation test is mainly done to find out the hypothalamic disorders, and TSH stimulation tests are usually done to find out pituitary disorders. So that will be the indications. In case of a nodule or in case of a goiter, which can be grade 0, grade 1, or can be even we call as grade 2. Ultrasound radioactive iodine uptake by I-131, radioactive iodine I-131 or technetium, which we do thyroid scan and find out whether it is a hot nodule, cold nodule, or regular uptake, normal uptake. And then you can go for FNAC biopsy, FNAC or biopsy. This will give you an answer regarding it is a benign or a malignant, and if it is malignant, what is the probable etiology. CT scan, MRI scan, PET scan and PET MRI combinations are usually done to find out the size of the thyroid gland tumors, malignant, non-malignant, spread, etc. Metastasis, invasion of the surrounding structures, compressions, all those can be identified by doing CT scan or MRI or PET combination with MRI or PET CT, PET MRI or PET CT. Perchlorate discharge test is mainly done only in one condition where there is a disorder of what we call as an enzymatic defects. So it is selectively done only in one conditions. So now if you go through an indications of thyroid function test, when we say thyroid function test, mainly it is TSH, T3, T4, total or free T3, T4. That is the main test what is being done. So that is particular, and if required we do antibody test, TPO antibody, TRA antibody, TR antibody or thyroglobulin antibodies. These are the common, and I've already told you that stimulation test or inhibition test are mainly done to find out central causes. We call pituitary induced or we call hypothalamic induced. In that TRH or TSH stimulation test or inhibition test are being done. And this study, ultrasound, radioactive, all those are being done in case of thyroid nodules or thyroid goiter. So these are the tests which are done in that. And perchlorate test is done in one congenital disorders where there is an enzymatic defect. So any person who has got a clinical symptom signs of hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism, there is a strong family history of hypo or hyper in a family, or patient is type 1 diabetes, celiac disease, ischemic heart disease, congestive heart failure, hyperlipidemia, or we call dyslipidemia, atrial flutter fibrillations, pericardial effusion, hypertension, all these can be indications for getting thyroid function test done, because in all these conditions one of the etiology can be thyroid disorders, either hypo or hyper. Also before pregnancy, that is preconception, conception, during entire pregnancy period and also during a postpartum period, to identify thyroiditis, autoimmune thyroiditis, also identifying postpartum thyroiditis, if a female has got goiter, or during pregnancy if there is any thyroid disorders. Particularly very common disorder is autoimmune thyroiditis, which produces hypothyroidism. A person who is on a drugs, particularly like amiodarone, lithium and interferon, these are the three common drugs which can interfere with your thyroid function, and most common is lithium and amiodarone. Interferon is very rarely utilized. This is mainly utilized in psychiatric disorders, and amiodarone is very commonly utilized in a person with a cardiac arrhythmias. So do look for person on amiodarone or lithium. If a female is having sterility, amenorrhea, metromenoregia and more than 35 years of age, or a male having infertility and oligospermia, or we call azoospermia, or any person who has undergone a neck surgery, particularly for thyroid gland or parathyroid gland, or he has undergone irradiation, or person who is of old age groups, you should go for a thyroid function test. Indirectly, we do in any suspected person who is having possibility of a thyroid disorders. We want to identify the cause of that particular hypo or hyperthyroidism, that is for screening purpose. So for screening purpose and for monitoring, once you start the treatment, you want to identify whether the person is responding, not responding, whether is improving, and you want to monitor the treatment part of it and control reaching the goal. So it should be done in all newborns. Personal history of thyroid disorders, goiters, some genetic disorders, particularly Down syndrome, Turner syndromes, pregnant, all pregnant during first trimester. Ideally, it should be done before even a preconceptions. Woman from 6 weeks to 6 months of postpartum period. So all these are the indications, and these are all the different function tests what can be done. We already mentioned T3, T4, TSH is the main important test, and if any person who has got a hypoproteinemia or disorders of globulins, you should do free T4, free T3. Radioactive iodine uptake is taken to do a iodine kinetic studies. Mainly you want to find out the hot nodule, cold nodules, or normal uptake. You want to study for thyroid structures. You will go for radio iodine uptake studies, ultrasounds, that is sonography, CT scan, MRI, PET scan, etc. to identify the thyroid structure, and if possible you can suspect malignancy. 100% confirmation is done by FNAC or biopsy. In a suspected case of an autoimmune disorders, you can go for an antibody studies like TPO antibody, thyroid receptor antibodies, we call TSH receptor antibodies, stimulating antibodies, or we call inhibitory antibodies or blocking antibodies, thyroglobulin antibodies. These are all the different tests which are being done commonly. Perchlorate test is selectively done in a congenital disorders where there is a disorders of enzymatic defects. Stimulation test and inhibitory test are done mainly to identify the central causes, that is hypothalamic or pituitary gland disorders, we call secondary or tertiary groups. But never forget history, physical examination, thyroid gland examination and systemic examination is absolutely necessary to rule out thyroid disorders. These are all the list. You can go through your at leisure time. Measuring the blood level of thyroid hormones for finding out the primary functions, that is suppression test, stimulation test you can go for, or you can go for a radioactive iodine uptake study to find out the active nodule or inactive nodule, or we call a hot nodule, cold nodule. You can do a test regarding to the metabolic functions, that is scan, BMR, cholesterol, creatinine level, uric acid level, CPK enzyme level, and you want to find out the autoimmune thyroiditis. You can go for what we call is a different test as available, that is agar gel diffusion test, TRCH test, that is 10 red cell hemagglutination test. Also you can go for antibodies, different types of antibodies. We already told you TPO antibodies, TRAB antibodies and thyroglobulin antibodies. These are the common which are being done. So these are all the different tests which you can go for. These are effect of thyroid functions on peripheral, that is BMR, deep tendon reflex, cardiovascular indices, pulse, blood pressure, LV function, lipids level, particularly cholesterol level, CPK, LDH enzyme, AST enzymes. Even you can go for carcinogenic embryonic antigen, that is CEA we call, which is positive in case of a malignancy, some of the malignancy, thyroid malignancy. This is a basal metabolic test which you can perform. This is a reflexometer. This is how you do it. You can do it in bicep jerk. You can do it in a knee jerk also. You can go for a thyroid economy test, what we call as a radioactive iodine uptake. Perchlorate discharge test is mainly done in a case of a Pendred syndrome, which is positive. And also you can do it in an autoimmune thyroiditis. And we have already told you that TSH level is very, very important. TRH stimulation test to find out mainly hypothalamic disorders. TSH stimulation test is done mainly to find out the pituitary disorders, etc. These are all the different tests which can be done. Test for thyroid hormones. These are special tests. You can go for all different tests. Now we are undergoing how you interpret. This is the most common test and first to be interpreted, that is total T3 T4 and TSH level. But if you find it is not telling with your clinical picture, go for free T3 T4 level and TSH level, because this can be abnormal because of abnormality in a plasma protein, globulin and proteins, that is albumin and globulin. So you should have ideally free T3 T4. This is costly, hence usually first you always go for this, and if you find a person is hypoproteinemic or person is having some other autoimmune disorders, you can go for free T3 T4 levels. Among antibody tests, TPO antibody, TSH receptor antibody and thyroglobulin antibodies. We divide the test into two big groups. One without goiter, one with goiter. One without goiter, history, physical examination and thyroid examination should be done. You try to find out whether the person has got goiter or not. BMR, deep tendon reflex on clinical examination, CVS, ECG, ECO is another test which can help you out. Now while finding out the thyroid function, whether it is hypo, hyper or euthyroid, you can go for free T3 T4 TSH, total T3 T4 TSH, or you can go for even estimation of TRH level, because TRH level will be very useful to find out the central causes, that is hypothalamic causes or pituitary causes. Antibody, we have already mentioned TPO antibodies, thyroglobulin antibody and thyroid receptor antibodies. Lipid profiles, GTT, CBC count, CPK, LDH, AST will be also useful to find out thyroid disorders. But in presence of nodule, thyroid gland examination becomes very, very important. Physical examination and even this, what we call as BMR, deep tendon reflex, cardiovascular, ECG, ECO, etc. is also useful. But in addition to this particular test, you have to do ultrasound to find out the type of thyroid gland enlargement. Good number of conditions can be picked up by doing a good ultrasound. You can pick up hypoechoic, hyperechoic, a thyroid gland is invading into surrounding structures, etc. And on that you can suspect malignant, non-malignant, possibly malignant, probable malignant, etc. CT scan, MRI, PET CT, PET MRI is very useful to find out whether it is malignant, non-malignant, invasive, non-invasive, whether it has got secondary metastasis or not. Radioactive iodine uptake and thyroid scan, technetium thyroid scan will help you to identify what we call as a hot nodule, cold nodule. Cold nodule are more likely to be malignant. Hot nodule are less likely to be malignant. And normal uptake studies can be malignant. FNACN biopsy is mainly to identify the type of goiter or nodule, whether it is a malignant or benign, and if it is malignant, which variety. CEA you can do, that is carcinoembryogenic antigen. which is positive in some of the thyroid malignancy. I've already mentioned TRH stimulation test, TSH stimulation test, or inhibition test, that is T3 inhibition test, is mainly done to identify the central causes. And perchlorate discharge test is already done for, we have already mentioned before, that it is mainly done for Pendred syndrome. Pendred syndrome. So, whatever we have mentioned before, mainly radiooptic study is done by radioactive iodine I-131, or also it is done by I-125. You can estimate, sorry, this is estimation of thyroid array, this T3, T4 and TSH by radioimmunoassay, ELISA method or other techniques. So it is a thyroid stimulating test, T4 total thyroxine, total T3 free level, and this will be very helpful to rule out any changes in T3, T4 due to hypoproteinemia or hyperglobulinemia. And thyroid antibodies are very helpful to differentiate autoimmune group of disorders. TSH alone is enough to find out a hypothyroidism. But whether it is primary, secondary, you need T3, T4 level, and particularly free T3, T4 level. So TSH and free T4 level is only if hypothyroidism is suspected or for a routine evaluation and during pregnancy. Free T3 is very useful in T3 toxicosis, to rule out T3 toxicosis. For follow-up treatment, only TSH is necessary. We don't require T3, T4. But it is helpful sometime to identify good number of conditions like 6 syndromes, acute thyroid illness, also in case of what we call as a subclinical variety, hypo or hyper, etc. So it is useful. Don't order total T4 or total T3 routinely, because this does not give you a good idea. Best is free T3, T4, but being costly, it is replaced by total T4 and total T3. Never order radioactive iodine uptake in pregnancy, during lactation, and also in children, newborn children's. Laboratory method we have already mentioned, RIA method, radioimmunoassay, ELISA method, or chemical immunofluorescent immunoassay or fluorescent immunoassay, etc. There are good number of conditions which will increase TSH and good number of conditions will decrease TSH, which can be sometimes non-thyroid disorders also. Say as for example, TSH will increase in Addison's disease, in preeclampsia, hypothermia, pituitary adenoma, psychiatric illness, person who is on amiodarone, then person who is on a methimazole, lithium, morphine, propylthiouracil, etc. In all these conditions, you can have sometime abnormal level of TSH. While a person who is having some of the disorders where TSH level will go down, say like person who is on heparin, ketoconazole, dopamine, glucocorticoids, octreotide, etc. sorry, sorry. Thyroxine level can be also affected because of thyroid bound globulin can be abnormal. Pituitary causes, hypothalamic disorders, that can be reasons for producing abnormal T34s. And we already mentioned thyroid bound globulin can be also abnormal. In liver disease, it will be high. Pregnancy, it will be high. Person who is on estrogen or person who is on a clofibrates, TBG will be high. While in a late stage of liver disease, TBG will be low. malnutrition, nephrotic syndromes, and person who is on androgens or glucocorticoids. TBG may be low. And when TBG is low, free thyroid level, free T3, T4 level will increase. You have to keep this thing in mind. Now we are going through very important, simple. So, sorry, here we don't have that quiz type. So, this is what we call is a TSH level. This is what we call T4 level. So, if T4 level is low and TSH level is also low, it is secondary hypo, particularly pituitary or hypothalamic induced. If TSH level is low but T4 level is high, primary hyperthyroidism. Opposite of that, if TSH level is high and T4 level is low, it will be primary hypo. If T4 level is high and TSH level is also high, secondary hypo. So remember these four corners. It is based on free T4 and TSH level. But you can come across some conditions where T3, T4 is normal, but TSH is low, subclinical hyper. Or if TSH level is high, but T3, T4 is normal, subclinical hypo. And if both are normal, T3, T4 is normal, TSH level is also normal, euthyroid. But once in a while, you can come across similar conditions in a person, maybe euthyroid, but may have goiter, which can be smooth goiter, or it can be even a multinodular goiter, particularly in a person with an iodine deficiency. It can be puberty goiter, iodine deficiency, etc. It can be a goiter which is euthyroid. And if T4 is high, T4 is high, here T4 is high, free thyroxinol is high, and is high. Yes. And if TSH is normal, it is a person who is on altroxin or person who is having non-thyroid illness. While if T3, T4 is low, mainly T3 is low, and TSH is normal, it is mainly in case of what we call as a non-thyroid illness, or we call sick euthyroid syndrome. So in a sick euthyroid syndrome, total T3 is reduced, free T3 is reduced, T4 is also reduced good number of time, free T4 may be normal and TSH is normal. And clinically, person do not have any symptom signs of hypothyroidism. This is called sick euthyroid syndrome, which you can come across very frequently, which can be mild, moderate or severe, or person is in a recovery stage, and depending upon that, you can have a change in TSH level. In a severe variety, you will start getting TSH becoming low, and T3, T4, T3, T4 will be low, while conversions of free T4 into reverse T3 will become more, and you will have dose level being elevated. So this is what you get in a euthyroid sick syndrome. Short form we call it the ESS, euthyroid sick syndrome. This is same, some names are added, euthyroid sick syndrome or thyroid disease in transition. In those conditions, you can have some of these abnormalities. Do keep it in mind. Go through your at leisure time. This is a complete combination of primary, secondary, and subclinical hypo, primary, secondary, and subclinical hypo, thyroid resistance, amiodarone, thyroid illness, NTI, that is non-thyroid illness. This is amiodarone. This is non-thyroid illness, severe non-thyroid illness, T3 thyrotoxicosis, etc. So in those conditions, You can come across abnormality in TSH, T4 and T3. All that is mentioned in a single picture. You can go through your at leisure time. So now this is like a quiz. Say if we say, if this is normal, yes. Normal, or we call it a euthyroid. If free T3, T4, TSH is normal or euthyroid. Now if free T3, T4 is high, but TSH is low, meaning hyperthyroidism, primary hyperthyroidism. If free T3, T4 is low and TSH is high, primary hypo. Free T3, T4 is high and TSH is also high. When all these three are high, it becomes secondary hyperthyroidism. Maybe pituitary induced, maybe hypothalamic induced. And if TRH is also high, then it becomes tertiary. T3, T4 is low, TSH is low, secondary hypo. If T3, T4 is normal, but TSH is abnormal, subclinical hypo, subclinical hyper, T3, T4 elevated or low, TSH is normal, non-thyroid illness or acquired thyroid illness, acute thyroid illness we call, non-thyroid, ideally we should call as a non-thyroid illness. T3 is low, free T4 is normal and TSH is normal, sick euthyroid syndrome. T3 is elevated, free T4 is normal and TSH is low, T3 thyrotoxicosis, etc. In a neonatal, when you want to investigate in a neonatal hyperthyroidism case, neonatal hyperthyroidism, look for TSH receptor stimulating antibody. That will be positive. That will confirm the diagnosis of neonatal hyperthyroidism. Very common in a child or a newborn child to a female who is having a Graves' disease. If any person who has got a single adenoma or solitary adenoma or multinodular goiter and hyperthyroid, we call plumber disease. T3 will be high, T4 will be high, TSH will be low. And if you take a radioactive iodine uptake study, so it will show you a hot nodule. In Graves' disease, T4 will be high, T3 will be high, TSH will be low. Radioactive iodine uptake study will show you a diffuse smooth uptake because it is a smooth goiter. In subpurative thyroiditis, T4 initially is little high, then it becomes low because there is a destruction of the thyroid gland. So person goes into hypothyroidism. T3 again initially is high, later on it is low. TSH will remain low or high depending upon the stage. During this particular stage, when the T4 is initially high because of inflammation, TSH will be low, but in later stages as the person goes into hypothyroidism, the TSH will be high. And radioactive iodine uptake study will be low, showing you that there is a destruction of the thyroid gland. In a subacute silent painless lymphocytic thyroiditis, which is mainly because of the viral infections, we call as a subacute thyroiditis, which is very common in both and very common producing lymphocytic infiltrations. That's why it is called also lymphocytic thyroiditis or Dequerent thyroiditis, where antibody to thyroid may be present but can be reaction to the viral infection rather than to the autoimmune thyroiditis. It is mainly because of the viral infections. I'll skip over this. In a Hashimoto's thyroiditis, TPO antibody will become positive and it will be high. And very frequently, initially there is a little hypersecretions, and later on it becomes hyposecretion and person goes into hypothyroidism. And you will get antithyroid body positive, radioactive iodine uptake will be low, and FNSE will show a lymphocytic infiltration, and TPO antibody will be strongly positive. Secondary hypothyroidism due to chronic gonadotropic secreting tumors, chorionic gonadotropic secreting tumors, or we call human gonadotropic. You will have a weak thyrotropin agonist. This is a weak thyroglobulin. This level will be high, and this will very commonly occur during pregnancy and gestational period. And you will have high level of HCG, that is called human chorionic gonadotropic hormones. In a person with an exogenous thyroid hormone, the person will give you a good history, or person is taking a high quantity of iodine in a diet, and you will see that urine content of iodine has increased, extra quantity has been thrown out, and this particular group of people very frequently they develop hyperthyroidism because of iodine, we call Jod base dose phenomena. I'm skipping over this slide, you can go at your leisure time. I'm showing you some of the other important slides which are very simple. If you want to rule out hypothyroidism, you have to measure the TSH level. If TSH level is elevated, more likely to be hypo. Measure free T4 level. If it is low, 100% in favor of a primary hypo. You go for a TPO antibody. If TPO antibody is positive, more frequently goes in favor of Hashimoto's. If it is negative, then we'll give you the idea. Then it can be non-autoimmune. In Hashimoto's, replace T4. If free T4 is normal, it is more likely to be subclinical hypo. In that you will require a TPO antibody. If subclinical hypo and TPO antibody is strongly positive, treat with T4 replacement, we call hormone replacement therapy. And if TPO antibody is negative, then you can have a follow-up at a regular interval. Initially 3 months, then later on 6 months, annual follow-ups we call. Person should be followed up and look for person developing a symptoms, maybe becoming clinical, have a regular T3, T4, TSH levels, etc. If TSH level is normal and person is having clinically hypothyroid symptoms and signs, consider pituitary disorders. If clinically normal and no symptom signs, then you don't require any test. No clinically hypothyroid and TSH is normal, T3 is normal, T4 is normal, TSH is normal, no clinical symptom signs of hypo, you don't require any additional test. But if person is suspected to have a clinically normal TSH, but person is having clinically suspicion of a pituitary disorder, measure free T4. If it is normal, you don't require any test. If it is low, free T4 is low, evaluate for pituitary gland disorders, sick euthyroid, and drug effects. TRH stimulation test is done mainly to diagnose a secondary hypothyroidism due to what we call as a hypothalamic disorders. Because when you give a TRH, TSH level should increase. So response is 4-time elevation of TSH level. Very simple test, and it will help you to rule out primary from secondary group of disorders. This is TRH response test. You can go through your leisure time. In primary, what happens in secondary. T3 suppression test is mainly to differentiate Graves' disease from primary hypothyroidism, that is Graves' disease, from other conditions where there is a borderline high level of T34. So just for that purpose, you can go for a T3 suppression test. Mainly it is important to identify a Graves' disease, but not commonly being done. TSH stimulation test is done again to identify the secondary hypothyroidism, but mainly to find out whether it is a pituitary induced or not. After giving TRH, if there is no response, give TSH. And after giving TSH, if the person gets elevation of T3T4, it indicates the pituitary disorders. This is how you investigate a person who is suspected to have a hyperthyroidism clinically. You go for the T3, T4, TSH, or we say free T4 and TSH. If TSH is low and T4 is high, primary hyper, then you go for a antibody test. If antibody level is high, TRA antibody level is high, TPO antibody is positive, and there is a diffuse uptake, radioactive iodine uptake, suspect Graves. If TRA antibody is negative and there is a irregular uptakes, toxic multinodular goiter, TRA antibody is negative and there is a nodular uptake, there is a high uptake in only one small area of entire thyroid gland, we call as a single solitary nodule, toxic nodule. If there is a high level of TSH and high level of T4, then we suspect secondary causes, pituitary or hypothalamic disorders, where TRH test should be done. If there is an increased response and there is no response, pituitary adenoma. If there is a resistance to thyroid hormones, again there is an increased response. If there is a low level of TSH and normal level of T4, it is subclinical variety or in a non-thyroid illness or because of some drugs. And if T3 level is high and there is a low level of TSH, it is a T3 thyrotoxicosis. A very useful chart in a person suffering from thyrotoxicosis. So I'll skip over this particular slide. This is what you should do during pregnancy. That is usually in a pregnancy you come across what we call as a hypothyroidism, very common. Hyper is very rare. So if TSH level is low and T3T4 level is high, very commonly it may be because of estrogen induced or hepatic induced thyroid bound globulin which is high, or human choriogonotropic is producing hyperthyroidism symptoms and signs. Plasma volume is elevated. T3T4 pool size is also increased. High iodine clearance, etc. can have abnormal thyroid function test during pregnancy. So this is one chart which shows you during pregnancy what are the changes on TBG. TBG levels start rising. T4 level are also elevated. Human choriogonotropic hormone level initially is high and then later on it becomes normal. TSH level is usually normal, while what we call as a free T4 level will fall during the last trimester. So that will be the way you will see your reports of T3T4 during pregnancy. A very simple thing, that is first trimester T3T4 are normal, second trimester they are normal, third trimester also they are normal, but you can look at the total T4, they will be high. During first, second and third, total T3 is also high. So best way, if you want to estimate, you should always estimate free T3 or T4 level during pregnancy, while TSH level during first trimester is slightly decreased and later on they are normal. So if it is elevated or decreased during second and third trimester, or more decreased or more elevated during first, second and third trimester, suspect thyroid disorders. TPO antibody pre-conception, during conception should be done because it helps you to identify autoimmune thyroid disorders. And thyroglobulin usually will help you to identify Graves' disease, and you can go for TRA receptor antibody. That should be done. So high titer of TPO antibody in Hashimoto's and riddle thyroiditis is very common. Anti-thyroxine antibody in peripheral resistance to thyroxine. TSA antibody or TRAB antibody is very common in Graves' disease. So try to estimate those and you will be able to differentiate between Graves' disease and Hashimoto's thyroiditis, because TPO will be strongly positive in Hashimoto's while TRA antibody will be strongly positive in Graves' disease. TG antibody will be more common in case of Hashimoto's than in case of a Graves' disease. So in a Graves' disease, TPO antibody will be positive and also TRA antibody will be strongly positive, particularly stimulating antibody will be positive. While in case of Hashimoto's, TPO antibody will be positive in almost 95% of the group of people. So TPO antibody should be done in all autoimmune disorders. Family history of a thyroid disease, woman with a goiter, woman with a miscarriage, preterm normal delivery, preterm deliveries or premature deliveries, type 1 diabetes mellitus, or even before a person, a female, during first trimester also, TPO antibody study should be done in a female during pregnancy. Thyroglobulin I have already mentioned, it is mainly important in a Hashimoto's thyroiditis. It can be falsely elevated or decreased thyroglobulin level. If any person, male or female, has got the thyroid nodule, history and physical examination becomes very important. Estimate the TSH level to find out euthyroid, hypothyroid or hyperthyroid. If there is a low TSH, it goes more in favor of what we call as a hyperthyroid. If there is a high TSH, it goes more in favor of a hypothyroid. If it is more clinically hypothyroid and TSH is also high, go for ultrasound to find out whether there is any other abnormality in the thyroid nodule or thyroid goiter. And if it is hyper, do radioisotope study, which is contraindicated only during pregnancy and in a children, newborn children. By radioisotope, you can identify hot nodule or cold nodule. If it is a hot nodule, it is usually non-malignant. You can go for a radioactive iodine treatment or surgery. And if it is a cold nodule, you do ultrasound and you go for a FNAC biopsy. Ultrasound can detect the size, type of nodule, colloid, solid nodule, calcified, invasive, non-invasive, then hypoechoic, hyperechoic, etc. A solid nodule will always require FNAC. A cystic nodule less than what we call as 1 centimeter does not require any follow-up. But if there is a suspicion, aspirate the cyst for malignant tissue, and if that is positive, you will have to undergo surgery with other treatment. If FNAC is done, it is non-diagnostic, repeat again. If FNAC shows malignant, then surgery followed by radioactive treatment or maybe drugs, etc. In suspected malignancy, surgery is a must. Also in a cold nodule, surgery is a must. If it is indeterminate follicular carcinoma or indeterminate Hurthal carcinoma, again surgery is necessary. You can look at the radioactive iodine uptake scan, and if it is a cold nodule, then again you can subject them to surgery. If FNAC is negative and there is a repeated biopsy which is being done still negative and it is benign, you can have a follow-up, regular follow-up. Radiological investigation can be additional proof like chest x-ray, neck x-ray, radioactive iodine uptake by isotopes, that is I131, or by technetium scan where you can identify hot nodules, cold nodule. You can go for a CT scan, MRI scan, or CT MRI, PET CT, PET CT or PET MRI, and identify secondary metastasis, invasions, etc. This is what you can do in any person with thyroid disorders, clinically diagnosed or suspected thyroid disorders. So I end my lecture here. I hope this will be very helpful to you. When you see any person and you suspect a person is having a thyroid disorders, how you undergo different investigations, etc. We see you in your next lecture.